Okay, you don't just go into a shelter and take a dog home. It doesn't work like that.
Right, well, I mean, I think it more used to, but it sure doesn't now.
You don't just go in there like to a CVS and say, "Hi, I'll take this dog," and you leave 10 minutes later. Right? That doesn't happen.
I would like the meanest looking dog you have, that one right there.
I mean, I bet that dog is probably very nice, but whatever. Anyway.
The podcast you are about to listen to is an account of the movies which befell a group of horror fans. In particular, Tara Garwood and her intrepid friend, Matt Lolich. Had they lived very, very long lives, they could not have expected, although they would have wished, to see as much of the mad and macabre as we're to see in those movies. For them, an idyllic summer movie became a nightmare, and they loved it. The movies that they watched were to lead to the creation of one of the most terrifying podcasts in the annals of American history. The Scary Movie Project.
Hey peeps, this is the Scary Movie Project, the podcast where we talk about scary movies and bring you our out of this world opinions and spoilery spoilers. I'm Tara.
And good afternoon, good morning, or good evening, depending on where you're listening. I am Matt. Fear the dark. As the Barrett family's peaceful suburban life is rocked by an escalating series of disturbing events, they come to learn that a terrifying and deadly force is after them, one which may have arrived from beyond the stars. 2013's Dark Skies. That was my attempt at a dramatic voice.
This was, I have to say right at the top, requested by a friend of mine, Judy L.
Thank you,
so
Judy.
Thank you, Judy L, for the request.
Yeah. Yes, I would say thank you because I enjoyed it.
So let's see. This was written and directed by Scott Stewart.
I don't know. Scott. See, you can't trust people with two first names though.
Oh, see, well,
right? Isn't that what they say?
So he also wrote and directed Legion.
Oh,
which
I
thought was a super cool movie.
Okay, I've not seen that. So
it's Paul Bettany.
I can't say.
Yeah, I thought that was a really awesome movie. So I was
okay
with this one.
I liked it. I enjoyed it. I thought it was scary, and I liked it. I mean, we will discuss more later.
I think we'll discuss more later. But yeah, I liked it. I mean, yeah, we'll talk more later.
It was squirmy, maybe kind of squirmy and kind of anxious watching it, and I'll explain it all, I guess. But
okay. We'll talk about it. And I have some
I enjoyed it.
Research on aliens. Just a little bit
aliens
to talk about too.
They're real, right?
Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
There are aliens in this movie.
Now, aliens are real. Is that right? Is that
that's my word of the day. I don't know. I don't know if they're real. I personally think they might be real, but may not have actually visited us. That there are probably other forms of life in the universe, but that they haven't necessarily come in little spaceships and
little the grays, as they call them, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know if right now is the forum to discuss if aliens are real or not, but we can jump.
I mean, why the hell not?
Yeah, that conversation could take days, though. So
that's true. So this was originally pitched as a found footage film, apparently, which I'm wondering how different that would have made it.
I have thoughts, but I don't know. I think this is better with the structured story. I liked it.
I think we wouldn't have gotten as much of the family's interactions.
That's right.
If it had been found footage.
Yeah. And found footage has been done to death. I'm tired of it. I don't want to see it anymore.
Unless you're watching Blair Witch Project for the umpteenth time.
That's what it's not. I haven't seen it that many times. No, that's what I mean though. It's it's been done, and that was the holy grail. And I don't need. It's like sharks. I've seen Jaws. I don't need any more shark movies.
I thought, you know what? I thought Cloverfield did it pretty well too.
Yeah, that was okay.
They did it pretty well.
Yeah. And the first one, actually the original, really OG, is we got to talk about the last broadcast one day. That really is kind of
okay. One day we'll talk about that footage, then for sure.
So, but anyway, yeah.
So we open with a quote. Two possibilities exist.
Oh yeah.
Either we are alone in the universe or we are not.
And
both are equally terrifying.
I thought that was pretty great because it's true. It is pretty scary either way. Think about it, right?
I thought that was really good. And then we get the title of Dark Skies. Yeah. And we see all these different shots of suburbia and all the trappings thereof.
Right. And that was great with really the unnerving music. It wasn't like friendly, pleasant music. It was like something's wrong here.
Yeah. And it was these like very like people on bikes, white, sprinklers going across white people, the lawn, kids having water fights, right. People on little walks around their neighborhood, someone watching TV, all these like typical, like not scary things.
Typical all white suburban people. Yes. Absolutely.
Oh yeah. Definitely all white suburban people.
Yeah. With just that music that was not friendly music. So you're like, yeah, this is weird. This is not right.
Yeah. And then we cut to a cookout with Keri Russell as Lacy.
Okay. So Keri Russell, who I hope you all have seen The Americans.
Well, earlier than that
was so good. She's
in that. Even before that, she was Felicity.
So I never saw, maybe I've seen an episode or two. Was that on like 25 years ago or something? Old show, right?
I mean, yeah.
I don't know.
20 years ago, maybe.
I just know her from The Americans, which is on FX. It was awesome. It was so good. I'm sure you can watch it somewhere streaming now. Please, it's really, 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 really good.
Cool. I have not seen The Americans, so I've only seen her as Felicity.
Love it. But yeah, she's done a lot of work. She's good. She's a good actress.
Yeah, she's a good actress. So it's her as Lacy and Josh Hamilton as Daniel. And Josh Hamilton,
not the baseball
more recently, he's been on a season of American Horror Story.
Oh, I'm trying to place him.
He was in that TV show 13 Reasons Why. I'm not sure what year. I just know he was on a season.
That's where it's from, because I love AHS. And I'm trying to place this guy and I could not figure it out. Okay, that's what it's from. It has to be.
Yeah, he's been on AHS. And then he was also in 13 Reasons Why.
I've not seen
which is a more like teenager like drama.
Haven't seen it. Okay.
I think he plays somebody's dad in that or a teacher. I can't remember.
They're both very good though. Yeah.
So they're having a cookout while their youngest son, Sam, plays with a lizard he caught.
That's right.
And then they're like, there's something about its tail came off and she's like, maybe we should let it go. And he's like, no, I'm going to nurse it back to health.
Right.
So he's a cutie, but Keri Russell was actually their first choice and their only choice for the female lead. So,
really?
And she's not really into genre films, but she liked the project because it was a mother like fighting for her family.
Okay. Fair enough.
So she wouldn't normally have done a genre film like this. And then while they're having their cookout, their older son, Jesse, is watching porn at his friend Kevin's house.
Yes, I forgot about the porn.
Yeah, he's watching porn and they call him to come home for the party. Because they're like cooking out ahead of a party that they're having. Mm-hmm. And then at the party, Daniel, the dad, argues with Jesse about him hanging out with Kevin because Kevin's a little bit older and he thinks he's like not a good influence.
Yes, he's a what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know. He's a troublemaker, right? Or
he
thinks he is.
He thinks he is at least. And the dad thinks he is. Daniel thinks he is. So that night, Lacy rebuffs Daniel when he tries to get frisky.
Rebuff. I love that word.
So so we learned that they are not in a great place in their marriage right now.
Not so much.
We will find out later that it's because he is out of work and he's having trouble finding a job.
Yep.
So, also that night, Sam and Jesse, the two brothers, are talking on their walkie-talkies in their bedroom.
I love that. The walkie-talkies. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I love it too. I had a walkie-talkie when I was a kid and it was like the best thing ever.
I want a walkie-talkie now.
Yeah. Oh my God. I would,
as a kid, forget that.
We would play basically a big game of hide and go seek, but we would have two people be it and they would get walkie-talkies so they could tell people where they saw someone and like hone in on them to catch them.
You know what you do? You get a set and you go on a road trip when you have multiple people driving. So you can grab the walkie-talkies and you guys just talk to each other. Like
we've done that too.
20 minutes ahead. Where's the traffic jam? Right.
I mean, now you can do that with a phone.
No, but it's so much more fun with a walkie-talkie. Forget the phone. No.
We definitely used to do it with walkie-talkies when we didn't have unlimited minutes.
Oh, you got to have walkie-talkies. So much better.
So they're talking with the walkie-talkies, and they're talking about the Sandman.
Yes.
And Sammy is afraid of the Sandman, and Jesse's sort of like big brother scaring him. But then he says like, oh, well, he wouldn't come for you anyways. He'd be after me first because I'm bigger. So that actually comes back later, like almost at the end of the movie.
Yes.
And then Lacy gets up in the middle of the night and she finds the fridge door open and like food just all over the floor. And the back door is open too. And then she like, I guess they just clean it up, and like she thinks the kids did it or something.
Right.
And then the next morning, Daniel goes out for an interview. It doesn't really go very well, or he doesn't think it went very well, at least. And he gets home and he's looking at their bills. And when Lacy comes in, he tells her, oh no, it went great.
Past due and everything.
Yeah, everything's past due.
Yeah. But
he tells her the interview went well.
Right.
So,
and it's at that point you're like, dude, don't lie to your wife. You're just gonna get in so much trouble for this.
Yeah,
don't do that.
Not a good plan, people.
No,
your wife knows. She'll find out at some point.
Do not lie to your
go well.
Just don't lie to your spouse or significant other in general. It's usually not a good idea.
Yeah, the Scary Movie Project life pro tips, guys.
There you go.
Don't lie to your spouse.
No,
they will find out eventually.
Yeah, it's probably not good.
So that night, Lacy catches Sam on the walkie-talkie with Jesse, and she tells him it's time to go to sleep. So she makes him put the walkie-talkie away, and she wakes up in the middle of the night again.
Now.
Yeah, and she wakes up in the middle of the night again, and we hear this like high-pitched tone, like tinnitus type of sound. And she goes in the kitchen, and not only are like things aren't just strewn around on the floor, they are like in this strange configuration of towers.
Everything is like stacked, yeah.
And then they seem to be projecting concentric circles onto the ceiling somehow.
It's weird.
And Sammy comes down and she's like asking what happened. He tells her the Sandman did it. And by the way, for the Spanish dub, Sandman was translated as El Fantasma, or the ghost.
El Fantasma.
Because the Sandman, as we know, the Sandman who like puts sleep in your eyes and makes you go to sleep, is totally unknown in Spain. So they had to make it something else.
Okay. I like that though.
El Fantasma.
El Fantasma. I like
El Fantasma.
Yeah. Oh, it's El Fantasma. Okay.
So this time they call a policeman, and he comes and suggests that maybe it was someone in the house, and they try to explain it like this wasn't just someone sleep eating, and he doesn't really seem concerned. He just tells them like, turn the alarm on.
He's almost like he feels like he's wasting his time with them basically.
Yeah. And they've had their alarm turned off because they're running low on cash. So he says, just turn the alarm back on. Yep. And then Lacy, her job is real estate. So she's showing a young family a house that she has to sell. And the little girl has an asthma attack. And then Lacy tells the mom, like, it'll get earlier. It'll get easier. Like early on when our older son was young, he was really sick. And like, we thought it was going to be really bad.
Everything, right.
Yeah. He got everything
all the time.
And he's fine now. So she's like, it'll get easier. And then of course, when the woman asks if the house is a good opportunity, she tells her they can probably do better.
I was going to say, bad. Right. And it's some old, like beat up, like 70s house too, isn't it? It's all like, it's totally out of date, right?
Yeah. Cause there's later on, she's with the couple and she's telling them like, it's such a good fixer upper. Like you can make it your own really and stuff. Yeah. So it's kind of it's definitely a
challenge for her it's not an easy property to sell. Right. Exactly.
Yeah. So that night in bed, Lacy figures out that Daniel lied about the job. See, we told you it always happens.
Yep.
She finds out that he lied about it going well, and they fight. And then Sammy calls Jesse on the walkie because he's like, he can hear them fighting and he thinks their dad's going to leave. Right. Yeah. Yeah. So, Jesse's like, no, he's not. Like, just go to sleep. It's fine. Go to sleep. So now we see the alarm and we see that it is armed again. Yep. And it goes off. And Daniel goes downstairs to see what's going on.
Which, by the way, can I mention something here? I'm sorry. He goes down there without, whatever your preference is, a gun, a baseball bat, something in your hand.
He just goes.
I have a metal baseball bat.
That's accurate.
And a piece of pipe in my bedroom. So anyone ever comes by, so anyone ever wants to break into my house, by the way, I'm going to bash your brains in. Like that's, yeah. What is this guy doing? He's got nothing as he goes down the stairs to see if someone broke into his house. I don't really understand that, but whatever.
Note to self, do not surprise Matt.
Because all my dog is going to do is greet you and let you in the house and say, here,
my dogs are just going to be like, hey,
hi, a visitor,
come play with us.
Yeah. So that's,
so he just goes downstairs, see what's going on. And the call center tells them, well, there must have just been a system malfunction because all the sensors were tripped at once.
So I'm going to say one thing, and this is, I don't know if people would have security systems. We had one when I was a kid growing up. And I'm going to tell you something. That thing malfunctioned, like it went off sometimes, numerous times, I'm telling you, with nothing tripping it. I have seen these things go off like that before. And eventually we were like, forget this, we're getting rid of it. My parents got rid of it. Because it was like a hassle. Like seriously, it went off by itself like 3 or 4 times in like a 2-year span.
We had growing up when I was like a teenager, we had the kind that it was based on like the volume of air in your house. So that it was supposed to be if an outer door opened, it would sense that like the volume of air had changed, the air pressure had changed or whatever. Sure. Then it would go off. But sometimes someone would open an inner door like too hard or too fast, and it would go off because of that, because like all of a sudden it would be like whoosh with air and it would go off anyways.
And I don't know if it was something like that we had or what, but because that thing was weird and it just, I don't know. And it became just a pain in the butt. So I don't know if anyone out there has had security alarm problems, but whatever. But anyway, obviously this was not the reason that in the movie.
Right. But so all the sensors were tripped at once, which is weird.
Yeah.
And then they noticed that all of the photos they have like a huge photo wall with tons of photos, and they're all out of the frames. They're all gone.
So it's all like, they're not hung. They're like on a, it's like a hutch or like an entertainment center or something, right?
Yeah, and so but they are hung on the entertainment center.
Oh, are they?
Like,
I thought they were. Standing.
No, there's both. There's some that are standing. There's some that are like hung up. They're everywhere.
Well, whatever, it doesn't matter. Yeah, but yeah, all the photos are gone, right?
And yeah, they've all been removed, and the frames are just like they're empty in their places. Like so the police officer comes back again. He still thinks it was the kid. And the alarm installer says he couldn't find anything wrong. So like still like nobody's believing them that anything's weird going on.
So back to the photos. I've always had this hilarious idea. I'm going to take all the pictures out of my house of like people, my family and friends. And I'm going to go to the store and I'm going to buy all those frames that have the pre-arranged random people inside them. And I'm just going to display them in my house. So when anyone comes over, they'll say, who are these people? And I'll say, well, these are my friends and family.
Okay.
I'm sure someone else has thought of this ridiculous idea.
That's weird.
But it's funny, right?
But okay.
You would laugh. If you went into someone's house and you saw that, you'd probably start laughing, right? Yes. Yes, you would.
Right before I backed out the door.
I'm probably the only person. I'm not the only person that finds this funny, but anyway.
I would laugh, and then I would slowly back away.
You'd laugh because you'd think, this is funny. This person bought the photo albums and kept the pictures of the people that came with it. It's funny.
I feel like for the album, though, you would have to like Xerox more or something because there's only the one in the front. So for the albums, you would have to get a whole bunch of them. It would be some work.
I wouldn't really actually do it. So yeah, the conversation ends right there anyway. So
well, true. But yeah, I don't know. I would laugh, but I would be like, this dude's a little weird.
Okay. Well, at least you
of course we're both a little weird. So I'm okay.
You know what? As long as you laugh, and that was the main thing. So anyway.
So now Lacy and Daniel sit the kids down to ask them if they did this because they're like, okay, we don't know what else could have happened. And Lacy asks if Sam dreamed about the Sandman again and if he took the photos, and he won't talk. So she says, it's okay, you can tell us. And he says, I can't. He told me not to.
I know, right?
So Daniel goes through Sammy's room looking for the photos, and he and Lacy are fighting. And Daniel keeps scratching behind his ear. He says he has like a bite or something. And then Daniel takes Sammy to the playground, and Sammy pees himself and then like stares into space when Daniel tries to talk to him.
He like just like kirks out and like freezes up. It's just
he's just like staring off into space, not reacting. And then all of a sudden he just screams bloody murder. And then I guess at the same time, Lacy is cleaning. and a bird flies in the window and dies. And then like a whole bunch of birds just start flying into all the windows.
That would be so scary, right?
That would freak me out so bad.
I have definitely seen a bird fly into a window and like keep flying and like whatever. I've seen that happen. But yeah, I can't imagine like a bunch of birds hitting a window and dying.
Yeah.
That would freak me out.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So Kevin is hanging out with Jesse at their house, not at Jesse's house, not at Kevin's house, at Jesse's house, while the birds are being cleaned up, and tells him Kevin is like, oh, it's the start of an outbreak and you're going to be quarantined. And then Lacy and Daniel try to talk to Sammy about what happened in the park, but Sammy doesn't even remember it.
He doesn't know.
He says, I remember going onto the grass to play with the other kids, and then it wasn't me anymore.
Yep.
So Lacy and Daniel are like, okay, that's it. We may be in dire straits with money, but we're calling a psychiatrist.
Like, this stuff is like starting to
going
pile
to a
up.
therapist.
Right,
yeah, it's just more and more weird things.
Yeah, it doesn't.
I mean, to be honest, I would already be like, what the hell, when there was like a food tower with projections on my ceiling.
What though? I think to the point of someone like you or I did this, or something, this happened, I think we'd start already being in tune with something supernatural, only because we've seen it, and like we'd be under, because some people just, weird things happen to people and they don't think twice about what may be causing it. They think of a rational thing when the reality is, I'm gonna tell you, man, things happen to people in the world that don't have rational answers. They don't.
Yeah, I don't know what took them so long to say we're gonna go to a therapist or something. I mean, they talk to the police, but
people's houses are haunted. I mean, that stuff is real. And like, I'm telling you, this stuff is real. And anyway, yeah, they just, some people can't wrap their head around that and refuse to believe that something like that could actually be happening to them. So
yeah. So you believe in ghosts?
Sure.
I'm like, I do, but like, I'm
just
still kind of skeptical.
I don't just watch this stuff for entertainment. I believe there's something. There's got to be, right? I mean, I don't know.
I think there's something out there. I just never know. Like, I have had a couple experiences when I was really young, but I was so young that I'm like, maybe I just like remember it funny.
I feel like there's just too many experiences and there's too many people that talk about it for it not to be real. So
fair. That's fair.
I don't know.
So that's
not
night,
for today though. That's for another time.
Yeah, that's another time when we have a ghost movie.
Ooh,
or talk about ghosts on a live stream or something. So that night, Lacy hears Sam talking, and when she goes into his room, she sees someone in the dark.
Oh, yeah.
She turns on the light real quick, and
Scary.
Sam isn't there, and neither is anyone else. Like, she saw someone like over his bed. Nobody's there. So she and Daniel like run around the house looking for him. And it turns out he's walking down the front walkway to the street with that blank look on his face again.
Yeah.
And Daniel calls his name and he shakes him, and he finally comes to and he says, why are we outside?
Yeah.
And Lacy swears she saw someone standing over his bed, but Daniel doesn't believe her. So then Daniel is in the bathroom. We get a shot of Daniel in the bathroom looking at the itchy spot behind his ear in the mirror. And it's like all red and raw and icky. And there's like little, like evenly spaced dots on it. So yeah, that's weird.
Yeah. And this is where it's, to me, it was kind of getting like, you're not squirming in your seat, but you're kind of moving around. Like, yeah, this stuff is like piling up, and it's getting like, and it's done.
Yeah.
In a fairly believable way that these things are happening.
See, and
it's kind of scary.
The things that happen are definitely freaky to me, but I don't think it ever had me really squirming in my seat or scared, because I feel like the writing didn't make me care about the characters enough.
Okay, that's fair. And
like
that's
for
the
me,
that's always the problem.
Yeah, I was like, these characters, like, I don't really, they're not making me care about them.
Right.
So I'm not that scared.
Okay.
But I do think that, I think probably everything, or at least close to it, that happens in this movie, I think people say have happened to them.
Sure. That's what I mean. Like this. Yeah. And
so
then it takes a minute.
That's creepy to me.
Yeah.
Like, that's what creeps me out more than like watching the movie and being like sucked in with the family and like caring about them a lot.
Sure.
So Jesse breaks into the house that his mom's trying to sell with Kevin and these two cute girls, one of whom is Shelly.
And he grabs her boob.
Well, yeah, he says, well, better yet, He does what they saw on the porno.
Yes, I know. It's so great. I love it.
You've been a bad girl, and grabs her boob, and she gets all mad at him.
What is wrong with you? Yeah. Oh my God, that was such a great scene.
But then she asks him if he's ever kissed a girl, and when she realized that he totally hasn't, she
like,
kisses him.
She's like, all right, fine, let's just do this. Yeah. Oh, that was
so yeah, she's like, all right, I'm gonna kiss him now. Like, I'm mad at him for grabbing my boob, but I'm gonna kiss him anyways.
They're like 14 years old. I mean, what are you gonna do, right? So
yeah, well, yeah, they're probably something like that. I guess. And then Kevin might be like more like 16 or something.
Maybe they're actually younger than that, actually, but I don't know. Whatever.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Funny. 12, 13, maybe.
So as Jesse rides his bike home in the dark, a street lamp goes out above him and he gets real nervous. So nothing comes of that. It's just another weird, like, little thing that happens.
Sure.
Then Daniel adds security cameras all around the house so that they can see what happens at night. So now he's like, really, like, we're going to figure this shit out.
Yeah. I mean, you can't blame him.
And that night, Daniel is watching the security camera feed, but he falls asleep in front of it and wakes up in the morning. He rewinds it to see what happened the night before. And at like 2:31 a.m., a glitch goes through each of the camera feeds in turn and then back the other way.
And so just like, remember the security guy told him, there was a breach at every entry point at exactly the same time.
Right. So it's not exactly the same. It's like rolling.
Yeah. Well,
and then it goes back.
Enough, right.
But yeah, it's close. It's close enough. So now Lacy is showing a couple the house that she was trying to sell. And she has this like fit mid-sentence.
That was so.
And then she walks to the back door and starts banging her head against it.
Yeah. And I was sitting there watching it going, y'all better stop her before she busts her head it's through that door.
Yeah, and it's all freaky. But then she wakes up in bed and you're like, oh, it was just a dream.
It's that classic, like, dream. Yeah,
they're faking us out.
Right.
But she goes into the bathroom and she's got blood on her hairline.
Yes, she does.
So her realtor's office calls and, and is like, so this happened and it's weird. And so now we know that, like, okay, this definitely really happened.
Well, then remember, because, she's saying, what are you talking about this morning? And she looks at her phone and her phone says 3:15 in the afternoon.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was a well done, because that was like, ooh, damn. Like,
right. So now she's lost time.
Like, that was not a dream. This did happen the way they did it. That was really clever of them. That was well done, I thought.
Yeah. And the realtor's officer boss tells her to take some time off.
He's like, I'm not asking you to, I'm telling you to. Call me when you're better. And she's like, no.
Right.
But yeah, oh man.
So now she's got no income stream either.
Yeah, that's scary.
Eek. Yeah. And then the wildlife center that had been there checking out the bird issue calls and says they found out that the birds, because originally they were like, sometimes this will happen, like a whole flock will like lose their way, but they're like, wait, this wasn't one flock, this was 3 flocks, and they were all coming from different directions.
Crazy.
So she says it's as if something was drawing them to your home. And we know what that is, right? So Lacy looks up mass bird deaths online, and this is when she starts to figure out what's going on. She sees signs that you've been chosen. Your home is marked on one of the sites, and it shows a photo of what was like what was on the ceiling in her kitchen.
Yeah.
And then Daniel comes home and he got a job.
He actually got the job. Yeah. And he
actually got the job.
As he was leaving the place, the guy was like, yeah, this looks great. Let's do it. And he's like, really? Yeah. Okay. Awesome. So that was
yeah. So he comes home, he tells Lacy. She gets so excited that she decides not to tell him what she found right away so they can celebrate.
Right.
So this is one of my issues with the characters, is that I feel like it almost seems like she doesn't love him at all when he doesn't have a job. And then he gets a job and all of a sudden she wants to celebrate and have sex and loves him. And it's like, to me, it's like, it's so much more complicated than that. And it should be.
Okay.
And I felt like that was one of the things where I was like, you kind of let me down on the characterization and the like relationships.
Okay.
So that's a little bit where I felt like that, or a lot of where I felt like that.
Okay.
So they celebrate, they go to sleep. Lacy wakes up in the middle of the night again, and Daniel isn't in bed.
Oh yeah.
And the kids are staying out of the house that night. So she walks around looking for him, and he's standing in the backyard with his eyes and mouth wide open.
Yeah, that was very weird.
And then his nose starts to just gush blood.
Bleeding. Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah, it's just like all out of his nose. And he turns around and walks into the kitchen. And then he comes to and he's like, what am I doing in the kitchen?
I tell you what, I'll be honest. I thought he was going to grab a kitchen knife and like stab himself to death, like slit his throat.
Oh God.
That's honestly what I thought was going to happen. I thought it was going to be this just horribly violent moment. And I was ready. I was prepared for that. Thankfully, I guess it didn't happen because the story would the story had to keep going, but
we had to keep going with them
that's what I just had this in my mind if that was going to happen. Ooh.
So now Lacy's like, all right, I got to tell him what's going on. So she tells him what happened to her at the showing.
As he's sitting there, like trying to like getting rid of his bloody nose. Oh my God.
And she shows him what she found online and tells him her alien theory.
Yep.
And she shows him a drawing by a boy that looks like one that Sam drew. And the boy disappeared after they had disturbances for weeks. And she wants to go talk to a guy in the city who claims to be an expert. But Daniel doesn't believe it. He says there's got to be another answer.
See, that's what I mean. That always going for, your human mind tells you it's got to be something rational when sometimes it's just not. It's just not.
Sometimes it just isn't rational.
No,
like it's not always the rational thing.
No.
So then at the pool, Sammy won't take his shirt off. And a friend's mom pulls up his shirt to see and asks him to tell her who did this to him. So meanwhile, Jesse and Kevin are walking in the woods talking about the girls they were with. And Kevin starts chasing Jesse with a paint gun.
Yeah.
And is like shooting him with a paint gun, just being a dick.
Yeah.
And Jesse runs and then he finds himself alone in the woods and he leans back with his eyes rolled back and his mouth wide open and just like stands there. So now like things are happening to everybody. And then at the hospital, the doctor tells Lacy and Daniel that he thinks Jesse's outburst seems to be an emotional thing and that he has these geometric brands on his body. So he has to refer them to child services and they can like expect a visit.
Protocol. He said he's got to do it.
Yeah. Right? And then he asks if Jesse and his friends might be doing anything strange. Now I'm going to say this. This is another issue where I was like, wait a minute.
All right.
If you find a kid with brands on his body, and you're calling Child Protective Services, I feel like they're sending someone out right away.
I'm Jennifer James.
I'm Jill Stanley.
We're psychics.
We're sisters.
We are the hosts of the Common Mystics podcast.
If you enjoy creepy stories,
road trips,
haunted locations,
history,
and mysteries,
then the Common Mystics podcast is for you. Check out our website at commonmystics.net. Find us on Apple Podcasts
or wherever you're listening to your favorite pods.
I feel like they're not going to visit your house in a few days because you branded a kid.
Yeah. Okay. Fair.
Like that seems a little like lackadaisical to me. I don't know. Maybe I don't know about CPS, but I feel like they would go out.
You don't want to know. Nobody wants to know about CPS. So that's true. That's
true.
It depends. Yeah. I mean, just because it's serious doesn't mean it's going to happen like overnight, but that's a fair point though.
And the CPS thing never comes back. Like,
yeah, you're right.
Does it? It never comes back. It's just like the one thread of it. And then
she only mentions later when they're in the house that one day that they're going to get the call. And then, yeah, you're right. Well, the story drastically goes in a different place. Also.
Well, yeah. But I felt like, well, how
we're past that.
I felt like how quick does this all happen that they don't even hear from CPS? So I don't know.
I don't know.
It's
a good point though.
So they go to Kevin's house because now they think maybe Kevin did this to Jesse, and Daniel attacks him, asking him what he did to their son.
To someone and just some 15 whatever year old kid and just tries to start fighting with them.
Oh yeah, he just
what are you doing?
Completely attacks him, and
oh my god.
And so that's just happens. Like we're like, what the hell just happened here? And then the friend's mom brings Sammy home.
Yeah.
And Lacy blows up at Daniel after this and asks if he did it to their sons, if he's the one who did it, which is another issue that I have with the movie.
Okay.
So if you watch Amityville Horror and she wonders if the dad did things, you see it because there's a darkness to him.
Mm-hmm.
Like you see that darkness. This guy is like, the only thing we've seen is him attack this kid who may have branded his son, which I'm like, I feel like it's a leap to be like, oh, this guy who's been nothing but sweet and good and kind, except for this one outburst for a guy who may have branded his son. Now I think maybe he is abusing our kids out of nowhere.
It's just that desperation, like
it just
everything is going wrong. I have to look at every possible scenario.
Yeah, it just didn't seem,
I don't know,
motivated to me. It didn't seem built up in the story. Do you know what I mean?
It's panic. It's just panic, and it's I don't know. That's the only thing I can think of.
Maybe
why
so.
You know,
I guess so.
When your life is unraveling like that, you're not thinking clearly. You're not thinking rationally to think, you know, why would someone, you know, that's just outbursts or like become the norm at that point. Yeah. I mean,
yeah. But like,
honestly,
even we just talked about The Shining, like in The Shining, I can see why she asks if he did that to Danny. Like he is already, he's already done something like that. Like they've built it into the story that there might be a reason for her to ask
and
that.
There's nobody else there. So.
And then, but this is just, and then also it doesn't come to anything. Like she asks him, he gets mad. And then we cut to him sitting in front of the camera feed again.
Yeah, that's true.
And then they never like argue about it.
Storyline that goes nowhere. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Yet again, it just sort of happens.
Right.
It's like they took the beats of these movies, but they didn't like connect them together.
Okay.
That's my issue with it. Okay. So that night, Daniel's sitting at the camera feed and he sees the camera in Sammy's room go crazy. So he goes up to Sam's room and Sam sits up and he's got black holes in his eyes. And then Daniel wakes up at the screens. And this time it really was a dream. And he goes through the night before frame by frame. And he finds one where he can see like one frame on each camera feed where he can see like tall, black, wispy figures in each camera feed. And then Daniel goes to talk to Lacy. She's in bed and he tells her he's ready to believe now. So the next day they go to see the alien expert.
It's the guy from the insurance commercial. What's the isn't that
J.K. Simmons? His name is J.K. Simmons. He's in a bunch of things and I love him. I can't think offhand.
Well, okay, I
love him in, but he's in a ton of stuff.
He's in Patriots Day. I can tell you that.
Okay.
But isn't he the guy on the insurance commercials?
I think he might be in a series of insurance commercials.
What's the insurance company he does those one? Farmers Insurance. I think it is.
Oh, is it Farmers?
I think he's the guy that does Farmers. So we've seen everything, so we know how to protect everything. Yeah, I mean,
that's him. He's in everything. He's in
good. He's great.
He's in Whiplash. He's in Juno. He's in La La Land. He's in Spider-Man.
He's a great actor. Yes, he's the asshole newspaper guy in Spider-Man, right?
He's in the cartoon series BoJack Horseman.
What was the
He was on Veronica Mars, which you know I love.
The new
Veronica Mars.
Yeah, he's the newspaper guy from Spider-Man. Yeah, he's great. He's a great actor.
Yeah, he's in everything.
It's very good. Very good.
And he's one of those people who like nobody knows who he is, but he's brilliant.
No, he's very good.
So anyways, he's the alien expert and his whole living room is papered with alien stuff.
His whole house.
And he has cats and they're like, oh, he has a lot of cats.
Yeah, why?
And he comes in and says, well, cats don't care about them.
And you know what? They say that
used to live in the suburbs, but the neighbor's dogs barked all the time and it got annoying. So
they say that dogs, animals, but really dogs can like have, they say they have that sense where they like an entity or something like that. But it's funny
because I've always heard that cats have the sense for ghosts.
Well, I think animals in general, they say have some sort of sense for this. So
but apparently cats don't care about aliens.
Okay. Well, there you go. If you're all worried about aliens, get cats.
So, or if you are worried about aliens getting you, then get dogs.
Yes.
Which they do later on. So he tells them there are 3 types of aliens, and this is like actual like real theory on aliens. I put that in quotes, but I don't know why. It may be true, it may not. But this is real theory on aliens, that there are grays.
Yep. Yeah, the grays.
The insectoids and the reptilians.
I don't like the names of really any of those, quite frankly.
None of them sound
kind of frighten me.
Like none of them sound sweet and fluffy.
Pleasing. Yeah.
They all sound a little creepy.
Yeah.
Although I think I read somewhere that like the grays and the reptilians might be like linked, that the grays might work for the reptilians or be their slaves or something. I don't know. But he says he's not sure. He believes in insectoids or reptilians. And then he gives them this test to see if they're really experiencing alien visitations.
That's pretty good, wasn't it?
That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And he finishes the test and he just tells them, you're not alone in this.
Yep.
And he says, there's nothing special that made the aliens choose them. Like, they're not special. It's just like lab rats. And the Greys seem to be like death and taxes, a fact of life.
Yes.
He says, you probably already have implants. That's how they control you. And that's when they figure out that Daniel's the thing behind his ear. He looks at it and he's like, that's an implant. He's like, that's implant.
And then he shows him his.
He says he can't remove them. He's tried multiple times with his.
Just when he thinks he's about to get it, it goes deeper. And I was like, oh
yeah, ugh, so creepy and gross.
Yeah, you're not going to get an implant out that an alien did to you. That's not going to happen. You can't do that.
I mean, not if they're as technologically advanced as people seem to think they are.
As we've been told, yes.
Yeah, if they're that technologically advanced, you're not going to beat them.
I will mention this scene. I like it because anytime you can talk about a ridiculous premise, which, I mean, let's be honest, a lot of people believe this to be a ridiculous premise, and make it believable in that scene, it was done well. I think I really enjoyed that because that was something that could just be so silly. And but was done to me when I was done with it. I was like, ooh, wow, that was pretty good. You know?
Well, and I love that despite the papered walls, the walls full of alien stuff and everything, once he starts talking, he doesn't seem like a crazy. He seems like when you go to the college to find out something from a professor who studied this for many years. He seems very
that's what I mean.
Well reasoned and
it's believable.
And reasonable. So he also tells them that everything that's happening to them, this isn't the beginning of something. It's the end. It's when they reveal themselves. It's when they get ready to take someone.
He's been tracking that. They've been watching these people for probably years, maybe decades, who knows, right? Isn't that crazy?
Yep. So he says they almost always abduct the family member who they show an interest in, or who they first show an interest in.
Right.
And that's Sammy, they say. So they might be able to stop they think. So they might be able to stop the Greys from taking him, but they have to stay together and act quickly.
Yep.
So Daniel buys a gun.
Yes.
Lacey adopts a dog.
Oh, okay. All right. So more to your plot hole problem. Okay. You don't just go into a shelter and take a dog home. It doesn't work like that.
Right. Well, I mean, I think it more used to, but it sure doesn't now.
You don't just go in there like to a CVS and say, hi, I'll take this dog, and you leave 10 minutes later. Right? That doesn't happen.
Would like the meanest looking dog you have, that one right there.
I mean, I bet that dog is probably very nice, but whatever. Anyway.
Also, I had a problem with, it seems to me, it doesn't make sense to buy the barkiest dog because she gets the dog who's already barking at them. Yeah. If you want the dog to bark just when there's aliens and let you know there are aliens around, you don't want a dog that would bark at anything. You want a dog that doesn't bark at anything. So that when it barks, you know, it's the aliens now.
Or you just ask the people at the shelter, do your dogs bark at aliens? And if they say yes, then
right.
I mean, most shelters will tell you that pretty much, right? So
it's I believe it's required to be disclosed.
Yeah, you know, there's an Arlington shelter right near me, and I always drive by, and the sign always says, you know, Welfare League. Yes, we have dogs that sense aliens, and I'm like, well, that's good to know. So
yes, we have dogs. Yes, they sense aliens.
So thankfully, yes.
So they buy the gun, they adopt the dog, and then Jesse gets mad because they won't tell him what's going on. And so he rides his bike over to Shelley's house.
I'll give you the fun. I thought that was great too. I love the scene where he's buying the gun and he's telling him, what's the biggest bang for my buck when I'm up close or whatever. And the guy's like, what are you hunting?
What are you hunting? Yeah.
I love those scenes where I love to see, just some mild mannered guy like this guy trying to go and buy like a firearm.
And
like
then
it's so out of place.
I don't know what state they live in, but a lot of states you don't just go and pick up a gun out of nowhere either.
I want to say exactly. I want to say they live in California. I don't really have a reason for that.
I feel like California is definitely a state where you're not just going to go pick up a gun.
I don't know anything about gun laws, so I can't tell you that. But
I'm just guessing that California is one where you don't just pick up a gun on a whim. But that's just a guess.
But then again, it is a movie, so we can stop complaining about it because it's a movie.
So Lacy asks Sammy to promise that when the Sandman comes tonight, he won't listen to him or give him anything he wants.
That's right.
And then Jesse comes home and he asks Daniel, "Is it coming tonight?" And so they talk about it. Like Daniel actually talks about it with him. And Daniel asks Jesse not to let his brother out of his sight no matter what happens. Sorry, what were you going to say?
No, I want you to keep going because I want you to kind of intro my point.
Oh, okay. So it's the 4th of July.
Okay, thank you. There you go. That's all I needed from you.
There you go.
All I was gonna say, that's one of my favorite days of the year. And now this movie is gone and made me mad because every now 4th of July, I'm gonna think, well, God damn it, are aliens gonna show up at my house now? Am I gonna be able to have fireworks, or am I gonna have to barricade myself in my house?
Right. So we don't do fireworks anymore because our dogs, one of our dogs in particular, gets so upset by them that
dogs
she
and fireworks
really freaks out.
They're not a good mix. No, they're not.
So our 4th of July now consists of sitting at home with the dogs and like making sure they feel okay.
All right.
Because our neighbors do them. So like,
so you would
right
not like
near us,
you wouldn't want to live next door to me. You'd probably call the police on me all night long because
we don't call the police.
We
just sit with the dogs and hope they're okay.
I light off fireworks for 45 minutes to an hour when I light off fireworks. It's like my favorite thing in the world. But anyway, I'd definitely be bitter if I had to deal with aliens instead of eating hot dogs and lighting off fireworks.
So they're boarded up in their house on the 4th of July, eating dinner quietly alone in the dark. And since they're stuck inside, they decide to watch the fireworks on TV, but the TV goes fuzzy and the dog starts barking. So Lacy,
another reason which makes me want to believe that they live in California or the West Coast, because the time change. Think about that when the fireworks go off here on the East Coast, right? They're probably watching one of those programs. And if, time change wise, think about that makes sense. Because if it was like 5:30 or 6 o'clock and they're having dinner for them, it'd be 9 o'clock on the East Coast. So that would be
that makes
prime
sense.
time firework time.
Okay.
And they mentioned climbing a mountain also. So those are my random California reasons. That's all I have to base it on. I don't know where I got that from. So
all right, I'll take it. I'll go with California. So the TV goes fuzzy. The dog starts barking. Lacy grabs a knife and takes the kids upstairs and puts them in one of their bedrooms. And she stands guard outside while Daniel is downstairs with the gun and the dog.
Just pointing the gun at the door.
And then for some reason, she leaves her post at the door and walks down the hall. And we see a gray behind her.
I don't know about if I got that either.
So when she gets into the master bedroom, she like goes to look in the master bedroom and the door slams shut behind her.
Of course.
And she can't get out. And then downstairs, they've got the windows all boarded up and Daniel is like standing looking at a board that's like shaking and the nails just start going tunk, tunk,
oh yeah, all the stuff he did and all just starts
popping out,
shooting back at him. Yeah.
And the boards fall and a bright light shines in. But apparently this is from Close Encounters of the Third Kind. So the screws in a ventilation grill in the ground of Jillian's house move alone. They start unscrewing themselves when a UFO tries to abduct her son. So apparently that's an homage.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sure.
So Daniel gets upstairs and he gets the boys and then they all hide. He gets them to the master bedroom and they all hide in there together. Yep. And then suddenly the Greys are there. And
like a lot of
them. And Daniel and Lacy disappear and it's just the two boys. And Jesse's then suddenly in the house that his mom was just selling. And Daniel sits on the floor next to a dead or passed out Lacy or something.
There's a lot of that weird, like, is this real or is this a dream kind of moment?
Yeah. And then, so Daniel sits on the floor next to a dead or passed out Lacy, and then he shoots himself in the head. And then Jesse turns.
He's sitting there. Yeah. Everything's all bloody. And he's talking about, I ruined everything. And then he blows.
Yeah, I ruined everything. He blows his brains out.
Weird.
Jesse sees Sammy in the next room and Sammy runs away. So Jesse goes after him. But he sees Kevin and Shelly watching the porno in one bedroom.
Yes, it's just some strange things.
And then he hears Sammy again. And just as he gets to him, we're back in their house.
Yeah.
And Daniel yells, Jesse. And the Greys are surrounding Jesse.
Yeah.
And they all disappear.
Yep.
Jesse and the Greys all disappear. So then we cut to the alien expert seeing a newspaper article about parents being suspected in the disappearance of their son. And it's got Jesse's photo.
And he cuts it out and hangs it on the wall.
And then I guess Lacy, Daniel, and Sammy have moved because they're going through boxes and things.
Yep.
And Lacy is going through Jesse's, like a box of Jesse's, and she finds all his old drawings. And she sees that several of them are of like the alien drawings. So it was Jesse that the aliens were targeting all along. And then Sammy gets a walkie call and they hear Jesse say, Sammy.
At the very end,
that's the end of the movie.
Yeah.
and that's the end of the movie. So yeah.
So that happened.
So the other thing I noticed about this movie is that the plot line is very much Poltergeist.
Sure. Thought about that too.
Yeah, it's very much Poltergeist.
Instead of Ghost, it's aliens.
Right. It's like, except I feel like Poltergeist is a better movie.
Toby Hooper is awesome. I mean, and
I think it's better written, and the characters are more believable. So that's part of why I was like kind of disappointed in this movie.
Okay.
I thought it was interesting. I thought it was a really cool concept to use things that people really say happen to them in alien abduction or alien sighting, or alien visitation stories, but I didn't feel like it lived up to its potential fully.
Okay. That's
why I said I was about it.
All right. That's a good description of meh. I think that works.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. I liked that. I thought it was very good. I thought it was, I thought there were tense. So I guess it's interesting to see. I don't watch a lot of alien movies. I mean, it's an interesting topic. I have my theories on it. It's fun to all the stuff they've been saying the last few years now about the Pentagon saying they actually do believe in the UFO stuff and, whatever, X-Files stuff, whatever. There aren't a lot of movies like this though, that, this is like a real movie. And I mean that in the sense that this is a family and all these horrible things are happening to these people. And they're actually really taking you through these things beat by beat, and seeing what it would do to you. If you had these kids, I mean, this family has some issues already, as we mentioned. The dad's having problems with finding a job. They've got, and that kind of stuff like jobs and, having kids, those can ruin marriages. Ruin your marriage. So that was something that was interesting in the first place. But then imagine those things happening to you, and not having an answer. Like I said, you and I and other people might have a more open mind about these if these things happen to you or I maybe. But, who knows? You don't know that until it happens to you. But yeah, watching all these things happen to these people, and these are the things you do read about that people have said, and then and this is all believable. They make this movie a believable thing. This isn't some wacky slapstick cheap 70s film. I mean, this is done well, and you feel, like you said, the characters I don't love them, but I feel for this family, and I'm like, oh my God, what would this do to your life, to your psyche? And your child gets abducted by one of them. How do you explain? How do you talk to the police and say this happened or this happened? Right. You have no evidence for this stuff. Who are you going to turn to? Who's going to help you? How do you get your life back when something like this happens to you? I mean, I can't even imagine something like this happening to me or someone I know. And the thing is, there are millions of people, that say this has happened to them. They say this has happened to them. They're one of the best stories, I think, is I don't know the whole detail. Google, let me see if I explain this right. There was a school, an elementary school somewhere in Africa. I don't know if it was South Africa. I want to say no, that this is one of the more interesting alien encounters of all time. And these kids were in 4th or 5th grade. And this is 20 kids. Huh. And apparently there was an UFO landing or sighting. And all these school children saw these aliens. This happened in the late 80s, early 90s, I think. And this is a real famous story. Look this up sometime. So this is more to the point of just, is this stuff really happened?
Right.
They all say this really happened. This is a crazy famous story. Josh Gates, if you watch his stuff, is awesome. He did a show on this, a 2-part episode on it. So again, I'm not going to get into whether aliens are real or not right now. I can't tell you if I think that or not either. But, you hear these stories and then taking a ridiculous, again, I love the idea of taking a ridiculous premise like this, because a lot of people believe this is a ridiculous premise. Aliens, what am I going to watch this for? And really making it real. At the end, I was like, damn, so many people say about this stuff. And, this is an inside actual look at a real deal look at it. Mm-hmm. What if this happened to you? God, that would just, I truly can't imagine that. So I think good job. It scared me. I thought it was spooky. I really did. I thought it was good.
Yeah, definitely intellectually thinking about like, what
Yeah.
if this stuff actually was happening to me? Like, how would I react?
It wasn't some
creepy.
stupid flying saucer flying over someone's house with some dumb music. I mean,
there were no flying saucers.
Right. Yeah, exactly. None of the stereotypical stuff really happened. Exactly. So like just this, all this mental anguish and just all these crazy things happening. This woman losing in 8 hours of her day.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is like deep stuff. I mean, it's scary. Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah. So, all right. You want to hear a little bit about aliens, about the Greys?
I could. If you want to talk about, I'll say quick about the Greys. Read a book called Communion.
Yes, I actually am going to mention Communion.
Okay, cool.
Go. Briefly, but yes, I have not read it, but it sounds really interesting.
It's pretty good.
Yeah. So I'll probably have to read it at some point. So gray aliens, sometimes also known as Zeta Reticulans.
I've never heard that, but okay.
That is apparently like, I guess, where they're supposed to be from.
Okay.
They're the most commonly reported species in UFO cases. So their skin is supposed to be gray. That's why they're called that. And they're humanoid. They have those like big round heads and pointy chins.
It's the classic alien with the big head and the giant eyes and the tiny little bodies.
It's your classic, like what you think of as an alien.
But that's there for a reason, because they say that really is what people see. Yes.
And so the first really like big story in America that we remember was Betty and Barney Hill.
They're in one of my books.
So that was the first widely publicized alien abduction. And they did stuff like they lost time. They came to with scuffed shoes, ripped clothes. I'm not sure exactly where that was. I know it was in 1961.
Yeah, quite a while ago.
But they lost like a few hours. And their watches stopped. So it's things that you've heard about that are also some of them in this movie. And then there's also, of course, the Roswell UFO crash of 1947, which we heard about. I think in the 80s it came out.
We all know about that one, right? Who doesn't know about that?
So, but the origins of the gray alien might actually go back to the late 19th century. So there's a novel called Meda, M-E-D-A, Tale of the Future by Kenneth Follingsby. It was published in 1891.
Oh, is he British? I would have said Kenneth Follingsby.
Maybe so. I don't know if he's British or not.
Well, when I hear that name, that's how I want to say it.
He encountered small gray-skinned aliens with balloon-shaped heads.
Yes, Kenneth Follingsby.
Oh, really?
Oh,
rather.
How droll, Kenneth. Yes, yeah.
And then in 1893, H.G. Wells
I don't think British of him, but just the other guy. I feel
well, he's not British. So anyways, H.G. Wells wrote The Man of the Year Million, which he wrote it appeared in the article The Man of the Year Million, and he described these future humans as having no mouths, noses, or hair, and with large heads. And then in 1895, he also depicted both the Morlocks and the Eloi, the successor species to humanity in the Time Machine. He depicted both of them in very similar ways.
Okay.
So, and then they're represented in the 1987 book Communion by Whitley Strieber.
Yep.
Strieber. I'm not sure how you say it.
I'm not sure either, but.
But his previous works were fiction, but this one he said was nonfiction. And he describes a number of close encounters that he says he experienced with Greys and other extraterrestrial beings.
It's crazy.
Of course, the Greys are also in the movie Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Yep. And
they're shown as being like benevolent in that.
Right.
And then the TV show X-Files and other books, movies, and TV shows like.
Did you ever watch? Did you ever see V? Do you remember V?
Kind of.
That alien miniseries that was on like back in
the day. Yeah.
And then Alien Nation, remember that was on?
Yeah. So there's a bunch of, and they're like most commonly depicted.
Yeah, that's your generic looking alien. Yeah.
So I mentioned the Roswell incident in 1947. So that was sort of brought out in the early 1980s. And then apparently, I had never heard of this, but in 1995, this filmmaker, Ray Santilli, said that he had gotten 22 reels of 16 millimeter film that depicted the
So
autopsy
So I remember
of a real gray.
I was a kid.
It's in quotes on Wiki, of a real gray.
I remember being a kid, and when that came out and they had this phony special on Fox, I was so excited to watch it. I didn't know any better, but it's all, it was just nonsense.
Yeah. So this was supposed to be an autopsy of a gray
alien autopsy. Yep.
In, from the 1947 incident in Roswell, New Mexico.
Weather balloon.
And then in 2006,
weather balloon.
He said that the film wasn't the original, but that it was a reconstruction created based on the original film.
Sure.
After the original film was found to have degraded. And he maintained that a real gray had been found and autopsied on camera in 1947, and that the footage released to the public that he released contained a percentage of that original footage.
I think I tuned you out halfway through because that guy is just full of crap. I mean, that's
so
you know what? Then, all I need to know is if aliens come, call him Will Smith. That's it.
Well, and then the Betty and Barney Hill thing, which was I think we said 1961.
Yeah, something like that.
There was a guy, Martin Kottmeyer, who wrote an article entirely unpredisposed that suggested that Barney's memories that were revealed under hypnosis, his memories might have been influenced by an episode of the sci-fi show The Outer Limits.
I remember when they did
the Bolero Shield.
I remember the remake of that back in the 90s.
That the Bolero Shield episode came out 12 days before his first hypnotic session.
That's interesting, I guess.
And featured an extraterrestrial with large eyes.
Sure.
So it might have been a false memory. We don't know.
All right.
And their report was of a scenario that was very similar to the television show in some ways.
Okay.
So that's my quick alien history lesson.
And I like it. Okay. By the way, I found for you 1994. It's a school in Ruwa, Ruwa. It's in Zimbabwe. That's where this alien sighting was, where these kids, like 10, 15 kids, said they saw an alien like landing.
Oh, wow.
Look this up. There's a bunch of stuff about it. It's like for real. So that's the one I've
weird.
got.
So weird.
Yeah. I mean, you never know about this stuff. And it's just, no, I thought that, I liked it. I mean, I thought it was kind of spooky, and I thought it was well done. It was a good topic to take.
And I thought it was okay. I mean, it definitely was interesting. It kept my interest of what happened. It just didn't get me.
Sure. And that's, to each their own, as every one of these is different. I'm sure there's people that probably out there thought it was nonsense, but will I watch it again? Who knows? But it was good. It was definitely enjoyable, and I liked it.
All right. So next up, we are talking about Tales of Halloween.
Yay!
With a special guest, actor and podcaster, Christoph Zajac-Denik. Hopefully I said that right, Christoph. You'll have to tell me if I'm right before we record our episode. So we should be talking to him about, he was in Tales of Halloween, which should be really cool to talk about. And we'll talk about that and his career in horror film and films. And we want to remind you, as always, to subscribe or follow the podcast, rate and review us on iTunes or wherever you're listening so more people can find us. And don't forget, send us your movie suggestions, guys. Send us your movie suggestions and your thoughts on the movies you've watched so far at thescarymovieproject@gmail.com. And you can follow us on Facebook and Instagram at The Scary Movie Project.
Yes.
See ya.
Measure twice, cut once.
The Scary Movie Project podcast is produced by Tara Garwood and Matt Lolich. Learn more at thescarymovieproject.com.